Hi, welcome to the first of a multi-part series on the journey of getting from deciding we wanted an RV all the way to making a decision and getting a dealer and finding one. So today's part one, we're going to talk a little bit about how we got to the decision point of buying a fifth wheel as opposed to something else. So like everything in this family at least, it started with research and a whole bunch of research.
Oh, and I would say it started with me deciding I wanted to do something and talking you into it.
That works.
Take me to the place where I come from. The only place where I really belong. Take me 'cause this voyage seems so long. Back to you.
So you had been looking and had kind of started being interested in this for some time now, but when we really started chatting about it, we weren't really sure, I don't think, about what we wanted, right? There was Class A and Class B.
Yeah, this all started out with us wanting to take my mom to see some stuff in Texas and realizing that she couldn't just ride in a car, that we were going to need to have a bathroom that was easy for her to get to.
Right.
Probably a way to get her water and things like that. This was last summer, and she wasn't doing particularly well at that point. So we had looked at renting a couple RVs, and you know, I forgot all about that we had done that, but we did, and we've been talking about that for 2 years. How to do that. Last year we ended up taking her on our cruise. About December of last year, we took my mom and dad on a cruise with us, and a bunch of Matt's family were there as well. And then on that cruise, we had a long conversation about the fact that cruising probably was not a good fit anymore,
Right.
and that we needed to make sure that we were doing family vacations with the whole family, so that we had memories with her, because it was very obvious at that point that it was not going to be a very long time that we were going to have her with us.
Right.
So,
and after 25 years of cruising with them, and that was our vacation, it just became too much to try and negotiate and do that. And so I think you're right. I think that's really where we really started getting serious about that.
Yeah, going onto that cruise with a rollator, one of the walker things. We had a mobility cart. We had, it was just, and canes for 2 people. Because my dad has some slight mobility issues at times too, just kind of stability issues at times. And, he had a broken back over the years, so he's got some back pain situations. And then, it just got to where I'm not sure how much they really enjoyed the cruise, because getting anywhere became
So difficult.
So we came back and we started talking about how do we fix this? Like, we'd already talked about doing the RV thing with them, and that was already in the back of my mind. And so I looked at Matt and said, I think we should go ahead and buy an RV instead of trying to rent one. And we decided to go to an RV show outside of Richmond.
Right. And we looked at Class A's, or actually we started with... the first thing you said is you would like to go and see some of the national parks. And to get into national parks, there's the 30-foot limit on some of them, right? And so that's really where we started, right? And we watched a little bit. We did some research online and watched a lot of YouTube videos and saw a lot of tires. Look at these tires, Will!
I love those things. They're the Dynamax Pros. Sorry.
So we watched a lot, and then we went to Richmond and got a chance to go in and see them. And
Class Bs were pretty much off the list from the start. They're too small. So we were looking at some Class Cs, thinking we could use them as a transport vehicle and still stay in hotels.
Right.
Because, my sister, my mom, my dad, my nephew, me and Matt, there's 6 of us.
Right.
So looking at things that had 6 seat belts.
And then we got in, and boy, when you are in them versus seeing them on video, they're smaller than in real life, right?
Yeah.
And the good news was they had a bathroom there, but not all of them were something that you could actually get to the bathroom in motion, even though technically that's illegal.
Yeah, it is, but you do it on a bus. Like if you're on a Greyhound, you can get up and go to the bathroom. So is it? Sorry, gray area. We're seatbelt people most of the time. I was raised with a seatbelt, so was he. So I wanted seatbelts for everybody. But in an emergency, get off the road now, Matt.
Right.
Right. We didn't want there to be a slide that had to open to go to the bathroom. I wanted to be able to, if we pulled off in a rest area, have them be able to go to the bathroom, be able to make lunch for people, be able to get drinks for people. So having everything all contained in one unit at first was the way I thought we were going to go.
Yeah.
And that we would just be either trailer towing my car or getting something that could be flat towed.
Right. But then we looked at it, right, and you start looking at the Bs and the Super Cs, and in order to have enough room for the number of people, it was going to be, they're not cheap because they're on big chassis with big trucks and the way they're built. And so we started looking and said, you know what, this is pretty expensive. And they're not very comfortable to drive because we're both 6 feet tall, and so many of them are on that Ford Econoline chassis where the seat is fixed relative to the distance. And
we couldn't get them back far enough for our legs to be comfortable driving.
Right. And so every time I've driven a U-Haul, or a Penske truck or something like that, within a couple of hours, my back and legs hurt because I can't get the seat far enough away from the controls. So at that point, we started seeing some stuff, and we went to Class A then.
Right.
Right.
Well, Class A and Super C.
Right, Class A and Super C.
So to get a C, we needed to go to a Freightliner chassis.
Right.
So we went to Super Cs and Class A's. And this is going to sound some of them are beautiful. They're very lush, but they still feel like RVs.
Right. Until you go really expensive, they don't feel very residential.
Yeah. So we're not really in the Provo level of being able to buy something, not even close.
Yeah.
So we're not looking at that level, right? We were looking at that point significantly. We were at the beginning of Class C's and Super C's and Class A's. We're at the low end of them, right? I don't even think we could have done a diesel pusher.
Right. But at that point, you're still looking at needing to have a tow along behind you because you're not going to drive one of these things downtown, tiny, small town America and go to the concert, right? You need a tow vehicle. So we started looking at the tow vehicle and how to do all of that stuff. And we said, cost-wise, maybe the tow and a towable makes sense. So then we started looking at...
we talked as friends. So we have some really good friends from back when he was at Georgia Tech that are out pretty much 6 months out of the year. They are out with their fifth wheel and truck. And we're asking them pros and cons because we trust them. And Martha, the wife, looked at me and said, yeah, you want a truck and a fifth wheel. Like, that's what you want. You just don't know it yet. Because when you park your RV... Angela, you're still going to have to go to the grocery store. And you don't want to take the whole RV with you. So you either have to have a towed, which has its own set of issues, or you need to be able to, separate the engine from the house.
Right.
And the more that we talked to them and other friends of ours that are out there RVing and started watching YouTube channels, the more I realized we needed a trailer and a truck.
Right. And then when we started looking at it, then you get into the fact that they're big enough and you can separate them that we could take the dogs with us for much of this.
Well, the dogs were coming anyway. You look at it.
Right.
He'll be lucky if there's just 2 dogs. The dogs are coming with us.
But when you've got a Super C or a Class A, that's not really big enough for two big dogs and the number of people.
Yeah.
Right? It just was. So our requirements kind of morphed over the time, and I'd forgotten, actually, as we're talking about this, I had forgotten about the original impetus for why we started looking at this.
Yeah, I knew that I was the driving force to start out with, that he was like, okay, whatever, right? When I started talking about it. But I just thought about the fact that that's why we started looking at RVs.
And that explains, I hadn't really thought about the fact of where we had started was on the inexpensive side. And it really was at that point a decision about how do we continue to be able to take some family vacations with our aging family, right? And what do we need? And so it started as a get something that we can go a couple of weeks a year and do some shorter vacations. And there had been no concept of that point of going to most time or close to full time. And as we've, over the last 6 months, as we've looked at this, that's really, I think, been the biggest change is that I've started really thinking about this as being more than just a vacation thing.
Yeah, don't tell them, guys. I start with the small concepts when I want to do something, and I build them up.
So we're at this point we've looked at a fifth wheel and we've decided we're going to go with a fifth wheel and a tow, and you know that we went out and got an F450.
And fifth wheel instead of a travel trailer. Because I prefer pulling fifth wheels over travel trailers or trailers that are like fifth wheels. And that I know that they're more stable. You don't have the sway issues, right? As much. You can have sway on a fifth wheel, but not as much.
They're bigger.
They are typically, you can go way bigger. So that's part of it. And then, they just behave differently than a tow vehicle does. So, we very quickly came to fifth wheel. And here's the other side of it. When you are in a fifth wheel and your bedroom is upstairs, you have an upstairs. When you're in a trailer, there's usually not an upstairs. So the primary bedroom can be isolated away from the rest of the rig. And that was intriguing to me too. And one of the reasons that I was looking at fifth wheel is because if we have family going with us, we're going to need to get away from family at times too, to stay sane. We started down this road and talking about what we're going to get. Matt's mom was like, "Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not going camping. I'm not interested. Not doing it." And she was thinking of camping the way they camped through Europe in the 70s. And I'm like, this is not that kind of camping. But in the last couple of weeks, she's like, I can't wait to go out with you guys. Right. We haven't tried to talk her into this. We've been like, okay, Mom, if you don't want to go, you don't have to go. We'd love to have you. You're welcome anytime you want to come. She lives with us 6 months out of the year. So if we're not going to be here, we would just as soon take her with us so that she's not by herself. And she's gotten really excited as she's seen, she saw the video for the Badlands and said, I want to go there with you.
Right.
I was like, yes, we won over Mom. That's exciting to me, is that we're going to have an opportunity to go out with her as well. And let's be honest, we're not looking at camping. No. This isn't camping. Camping isn't a tent or a pop-up trailer, right?
This is the Weston version of camping.
Yeah. This is the Weston version of camping. So,
and I don't think Mom would be as interested in camping in a travel trailer, right? Because you're a lot close, you've got less room, not as much ability to have privacy, and sleeping arrangements are a lot more crowded together. So to do a multi-family unit like we're looking at of, you and I, the dogs, your dad, and maybe your sister with us. So 3 distinct, adult family units.
Maybe my nephew too.
Maybe, right. So to have that many different adults is you need a little bit more space. So I think that's how we ended up getting down to
the fifth wheel. So yeah, but those really were our reasons for getting there. It became very obvious very quickly that the motor coach was just not going to work for us. They can be a little bit harder to get in and out of.
Right.
Because typically you have like 2 steps outside and then you have more steps inside. If on the fifth wheels that we're looking, all the stairs are outside. So people can stand on either side of the stairs if someone's not stable.
Right.
And assist. We can't do that. We would have been trying to pull my mom up from the inside, which we would have done. Don't get me wrong. We would have gotten her in there somehow. But this would have been a lot easier.
Right.
And it's not, and that part isn't even an issue anymore because mom's not with us anymore.
Right.
So
But
yeah,
my mom has mobility issues. Your
my
dad,
dad
has
has. I
mobility.
think it's just being in their 80s.
Right.
We're lucky. Our parents are in their 80s.
Right. So it's just kind of, how we ended up for where we ended, where we started this process and where we're ending it are very different.
Yeah, I think what I want to say is that, when you start your journey when you start this journey, right, you're going to have plans on what you think your journey is going to be like. But look at everything, because it may not be the right journey for you.
Right.
And that first show, when we were walking around the shows and we were telling people, we're here to see the class, the class C's is really what we thought we were going to get was a class C.
Right.
And, yeah, and I walked out going, oh my gosh, those Alliances and those Brinkleys, right? And we weren't even really looking at them. We just walked through them because they were there.
Right.
The room. And yet also talked to one of the Alliance reps. We talked to both reps for a very, very long time. The Alliance factory rep and the Brinkley factory rep at that show were both wonderful and talked to us forever. Right. But we didn't think we were buying a trailer at that point of any kind.
Or a big truck or anything. And look where we're at.
Yeah.
So that's how we got to the fifth wheel. I think we'll wrap up part 1 here. Yeah. And part 2, we're going to talk about, once we kind of had the decision about the fifth wheel, what do we do? Do we go with a couples coach? Do we go with a toy hauler? Do we go with a different floor plan? And then, oh my Lord, at least in Class C and B, there was a relatively limited number of providers and vendors. Now, all of a sudden, it gets much, much worse, right? And then you bring into the holy war of, are you a Ram person? Are you a Chevy person? Are you a Ford person? Right?
Do you like Jayco? Do you like, Sabre? Do you like, oh my word. Right. It's not just the trucks, right? It's like that in the RV world too. And there are just hundreds of brands, it seems. Right. There's not that many, but I'm sure it seems like there's 100.
Right. And we've had friends who we know and trust who've looked me in the eye and said, you need to be buying brand X.
Right.
And
you'd be a fool if you weren't buying X.
Right.
I walked in and
pick your truck and RV here, and you get that, right? So kind of confusing. So we'll our next video we'll talk a little bit about our decision process of getting down to what type of vehicle we're going to buy or what type of RV, and
we'll, RV. We're not talking vehicles again. We own a Ford.
Right. What type of our next video is going to talk a little bit about how we got down to whether we're going after a couples coach or a toy hauler and what couple of vendors we're looking at. So thanks for watching this one and sticking around. Come back next time for that discussion about the type and brand. And if you like this video, hit subscribe, like the normal stuff. So thanks. We'll see you later.